Viewer discretion is advised. You walk into that room. You haven't slept in 18 hours. The clock on the wall feels like it's mocking you. And the one question that keeps hammering your brain is, will I walk out of here? The person sitting across from you is not looking for the truth. They are looking for a confession. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you how a highly trained interrogator can use pure psychology to dismantle your perception of reality and convince you to say things you never intended to say. We're not talking about rubber hoses or bright lights. We're talking about mind games. This is the ultimate lesson in behavioral control. Most people think they can't be manipulated, that they're too smart. They're wrong. The psychological tactics used in interrogation are so subtle, so interwoven into human nature, they bypass your logic center entirely and go straight for your emotional core. In this video, you won't just learn what the 5 mind games are. You'll learn how they work, why they work, and most importantly, how you can instantly recognize them. This is the key to mastering your own behavioral interviewing and emotional response. Okay, let's dive straight into the psychology of the confession. Mind game number 1, the false dichotomy, the least worst option. This is arguably the most common and most effective tactic, rooted in a psychological principle called forced choice. The interrogator isn't asking if you did the crime, they're asking why you did it. They present you with 2 options for a confession. Option A, you are a cold, calculated criminal who planned everything out. Or option B, it was a terrible, tragic mistake. You snapped, you regret it, and you're actually a good person who deserves sympathy. Notice what's missing. The option that says, I didn't do it. The choice is no longer between guilt and innocence. It's between being seen as a monster or being seen as human. And this is where the genius lies. By offering the less damaging narrative, they make the confession itself seem like the easiest path to freedom, or at least the most palatable exit from the suffocating pressure of the room. Your brain latches on to the least worst option because it's a form of immediate emotional relief. This is the first psychological turn. You're negotiating the story of your guilt before you've even admitted to being guilty. And that's a deep dive into confession analysis. This game forces you to abandon the defense of innocence and instead defend your character. You've already lost the game. You just don't know it yet. Mind game number 2, maximization and minimization. The good cop, bad cop reborn. Forget the cliches. This tactic is the psychological update to the classic good cop, bad cop routine, but it's often played by a single interrogator. Maximization is the bad cop part. The interrogator uses hyperbole, claims they have rock-solid DNA evidence, and makes the consequences of not talking seem terrifyingly absolute. They are exaggerating the crime and the punishment to drive up your fear and anxiety. They are trying to shatter your hope. But here is the twist. This emotional spike only served to set up the minimization phase, the psychological backflip. The interrogator softens. They become your confidant. They say, I know you didn't mean for this to happen, or we've all made mistakes. They minimize the crime itself, framing it as an understandable, normal human error, offering a sympathetic ear. This is the moment they exploit the emotional vacuum created by the maximization phase. Your stressed brain, desperate for relief, sees the sympathetic interrogator as a psychological lifeboat. They aren't your friend. They are setting the trap. Mind game number 3, rapport building and the foot in the door. This one is subtle and takes time. It's the essence of true interrogation psychology. The interrogator might spend the first hour talking about completely mundane things, the weather, your kids, a shared interest in a local sports team. Why? Because the most basic psychological barrier to overcome is trust. By establishing small positive commonalities, the foot in the door, they get you to unconsciously lower your guard. Every nod, every casual agreement, every shared joke is a psychological brick being laid in a path that leads away from defensiveness and toward compliance. They're looking for any point of weakness, any emotional hook. They might offer you a sandwich or a coffee, a small act of kindness designed to activate your reciprocity principle. You feel slightly indebted even for something trivial. This small feeling of obligation is the first domino. It makes you more likely to comply with the bigger request later, the confession. Never underestimate the power of an enemy who offers you comfort. Mind game number 4, baiting with fictional evidence. This technique relies on the subject's lack of information about the investigation. In many jurisdictions, interrogators can legally lie. They can tell you they found your fingerprints on the weapon, that a camera caught you, or that your partner has already confessed and blamed you. The goal isn't to convince you the evidence is real. The goal is to induce despair. If you believe the case is airtight, you lose all incentive to maintain your innocence. Your thought process shifts from, how do I prove I didn't do this, to, how do I minimize the damage now that I've been caught? This is a powerful cognitive distortion. By manufacturing the sense of inevitability, they remove the only thing you have left, hope. Once hope is gone, the psychological cost of maintaining the lie seems higher than the cost of telling the truth, which is their preferred narrative. It's a calculated move that exploits the human tendency to seek closure and avoid prolonged, painful uncertainty. Mind game number 5. The silent treatment and pressure of the void. This is perhaps the most unnerving and underrated tactic in behavioral interviewing. The interrogator asks a difficult question, you give an answer, and then they say absolutely nothing. They just sit there, staring. The pressure of silence is overwhelming. Humans are biologically programmed to fill voids in communication. In the absence of verbal feedback, your brain immediately starts trying to figure out what's wrong. Did I give the wrong answer? Do they know I'm lying? You begin to self-incriminate by over-explaining, correcting yourself, or spontaneously adding details that were never requested simply to break the crushing silence. The interrogator hasn't said a word, but their silence has provoked a cascade of uncontrolled verbal output from you. This is the masterstroke of psychological patience. They use your own anxiety against you. Common mistakes. Now that you know the 5 mind games, let's talk about the absolute worst mistakes people make in any high-stakes psychological confrontation. Because it's not about being clever, it's about being silent. Mistake number 1. Attempting to outsmart the interrogator. This is often the downfall of intelligent people. They try to weave a complex, airtight story to prove their innocence, but every extra detail they provide is a rope the interrogator can use to tie a knot. The more you talk, the more chances you create for a perceived inconsistency to be exploited. Mistake number 2, reacting to the maximization-minimization bait. You allow your fear, maximization, or your desire for sympathy, minimization, to guide your answers. Remember, the interrogator is not your therapist. Their goal is not to judge your character, but to obtain the narrative they need. Mistake number 3, explaining the silence. When faced with the pressure of the void, most people panic and rush to fill it. The correct behavioral interviewing response is to remain calm, repeat your simple denial of the core allegation, and let them break the silence. Don't be the one who talks first. The silence is their weapon, but only if you choose to disarm yourself by speaking. So what is the ultimate defense against the 5 mind games? It comes down to one principle: emotional discipline. The interrogator is not attacking the facts. They are attacking your emotional state and your perception of the situation. Your action plan is simple. 1. Identify the false dichotomy. Never choose between 2 options of guilt. Stick to your single truth. 2. Stay silent during the void. Let them earn their next question. 3. Control the story. If you must speak, keep your narrative simple, factual, and minimal. Do not give them the material they need to build their fictional evidence. This knowledge is power. It gives you the ability to see the invisible levers of manipulation at work, not just in interrogation rooms, but in high-stakes negotiations and even in everyday psychological encounters.
The Fifth Amendment protects you from government overreach by guaranteeing protection from self-incrimination and the right to due process of law. Invoke your right to remain silent. Talk with your attorney.
If you found this deep dive into criminal behavior and interrogation psychology valuable, do two things. First, hit that like button to tell the algorithm you're ready for more high-level practical psychology. Second, subscribe so you don't miss our next video where we break down the 3 types of psychological manipulation you experience every day. Keep your head clear, keep your mind sharp, and I'll see you in the next analysis.